All right, we're back with another Enough Already podcast, and joining us today is a senior columnist over at PJ Media, and you can catch his morning briefing over at pjmedia.com. It's our old friend, Stephen Kruiser. How are you, Stephen?
Drinking coffee as you introduce me. That's classy.
Now, of course, you could catch this podcast where all good podcasts are sold, and we do a video version of the show. And Stephen's got a lot going on in the background. It looks like he's got some divine light over one shoulder, and he's got a cross hanging on the wall.
Which is actually right here, but it's reflecting over there. And I've kind of liked that since I've been doing these video chats for the last 4 or 5 weeks or whatever. It's the 3700th day of March 2020, right?
Right.
March 3700.
No, I'm a firm believer now at this point that 85% of all Zoom meetings are just friends hanging out drinking.
Like we did it this weekend. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've been doing the ones we're doing for PJ Media on Vimeo.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know why. I guess because I don't know. That's just what they decided to set up first, and we've had no problems with them. And then I do the town hall happy hours on Google Hangouts, so I'm well versed in all of this stuff now. And then we Zoom all weekend.
Right. Yeah, it's nice.
I don't get invited because I'm not drinking now. Is that the problem?
Part of it.
Well, I can be your designated driver.
Well, at least we haven't done any of the, what was it, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, where it was like, I roll out of bed one Monday morning and our mutual friend Amy's texting me, do you want to do a Zoom thing right now? And I'm like, I haven't even had coffee yet. And I'm hitting beer on Zoom on a Monday morning. That's how I'm starting my week. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. And then I did that like 3 times that week. And I was like, yeah, I can't. This is not sustainable.
Tracy, I think we would annoy the piss out of you if you're not drinking, because we start sometimes at 8, 9 o'clock and it lasts till well after 1 and everyone's pretty smashed.
Yes.
So.
And then I stayed up on Instagram looking at coronavirus memes for 2 hours after we were done.
But Stephen, you're drinking beer? I thought you were keto.
Not during quarantine. I gave up on that.
Oh, okay.
I'm mostly eating keto, which is weird. A keto friend of mine doesn't get that. And I said, well, I just like keto food. So it's not like it's this diet of mine and I got to get away from that. And it helps me not balloon up on the beer. But I don't know, about a weekend, I decided to have some beer one weekend. And then my neighbor suggested social distance happy hours out in our courtyard. And he's a home brewer. And he's like, I got the beer. So I was not going to say no to that. And I said, okay, for the rest of quarantine, he drops it off at my door if I text him. So, yeah, I decided to at least try to work out a little bit. And, okay, if I'm not ordering pizza every day, I won't get too fat, but I'm still afraid I might get a quarantine 15.
Yeah, right? No, it's funny. We were talking about this off air before you came on, and, you and I had been going back and forth about trying not to gain a shit ton of weight during this whole thing. I've already gained 7 or 8 pounds back that I lost. And so I went back on the keto diet thing. I actually pulled this out today. I think I told you about it. For those that are watching the video, they could see it. My keto 0-carb bread from Aldi. It's made by Love and Fresh, who should be a sponsor of the Enough Already podcast, yes, by the way. Yeah. But so I've jumped back on the keto train today. And I started doing yoga.
Yeah.
Which I know you've been doing for a while. I found the most wussy yoga program on Amazon Prime. I think it's called Change Your Body in 14 Days. I think they're targeting women who blew child a couple of times in the last 3 years and reclaim your body back. And you got a middle-aged man doing the
my insert your own joke here. But my first yoga thing on Amazon Prime that I did was called Yoga for the Inflexible. Did I ever tell you, I know Tracy hasn't heard it, how I got into yoga?
No.
So when I first moved back here 2 years ago, after, fleeing California, I had a lot of time to myself. And, we were selling my dad's house. I was dealing with the estate. And I was on Instagram doing the Instagram thing that, despondent recent bachelors do, and I'm looking for attractive girls, and I like their pages every once in a while. And all of a sudden, there were a couple of very attractive yoga girls, and I went like, okay, I can dig this, and I liked their pages. And however Instagram's algorithm worked, all of a sudden I started getting some yoga people following me. And then I started following more yoga people. And then that went on for about a month, and I went, oh, shit, I might as well do yoga now if I'm going to be hanging around with the Instagram yoga crowd. So I pretty much started doing yoga because I'm a pervert. But silver linings.
Right. It does feel like the perv app to me, because you and I have gone back and forth a few times. I've got a favorite golfer that I followed her account on Instagram, and this is some hot blonde. And, you know, as soon as
Does she have a name, or she's just the hot blonde golfer?
She's the hot blonde golfer. I just call her my favorite golfer. Now you're going to make me look it up. Paige.
Yeah.
Paige
she has
Renee.
A name.
Yeah, come on.
Paige Spiranek is her name, and she's _Paige.Renee on Instagram, and she's gorgeous. So you start following one of these accounts, and now I've got every hot chick golfer showing up in my search feed because I follow this one account. And then so I'm looking, and I'm noticing I'm not looking so much at swings anymore to try to, you know, improve my game. It's, oh, look at her. Wow, she's hot. And then it just feels like you're a total dirtbag pervert looking at Instagram hot chicks of, you know, accounts from women that are 20 years younger.
And then I follow a weird mix of gun people, the attractive yoga women, some sports stuff, the cyclists a lot, and then Catholic stuff. So I'll have like hot chick, the Pope.
Guilt.
It happens all the time. I'll be on a roll with 3 or 4 hot chicks, and then Francis is standing there going.
Well, you guys should look into becoming yoga gurus. I mean, I don't know if either of you have watched the documentary about Bikram that started the really popular like hot yoga stuff. He's a psychopath, but he was getting all the ladies in his little group to not only be his slaves, but his sex slaves. So there's something about getting that whole thing going.
Yeah, well, if you're the only guy in a class full of women, I mean, I can hardly wait until I'm good enough to actually go take a class somewhere.
But maybe you should go when you're bad, because then you'll get all this help.
Oh yeah, can you help me here? I'm like, can you show me what down dog looks like from all angles? I'm the worst. And then one of my favorite bars is right across the street from this yoga studio I want to go to. So, you know, I'll go for a drink.
Have you ever done hot yoga, Tracy? I know you do yoga from time to time.
I do yoga every day. I don't want to go sweat with people, though.
Yeah.
Who does?
No.
So Tracy's trying to talk me into starting to. We're moving into, or trying to move into, more of a lifestyle section for Enough Already. The website's enoughалready.media for you folks that aren't aware of the new site. And I may start blogging about my yoga experience, because I'm sure it'll be highly entertaining. Again, I'm watching this, and the first 3 minutes of the introduction to the first video is, I know that maybe you're not confident like you used to be. You may have had 2 or 3 kids, and your body isn't what it once was. I'm like, yeah, well, that is true. My body isn't what it was before I had kids. So I'm nodding along, and so I did this today, and I did the tabletop plank or whatever, and the half dragon supreme. I don't know what I'm doing, but I at the end I was really relaxed, and I broke a good sweat. So there must be something to it.
Yeah, when you do the thing at the end, what's it called, Tracy? When you lie down at the end to relax? Avasana, something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. Do the corpse pose.
Shavasana.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. When I do that, sometimes I go to sleep. She'll say, just lay here as long as you want to. And then she bugs out. And then the next thing I know, I'm so exhausted from the thing. I'm like,
yeah.
I would love to see the ones that you guys are doing that they put you to sleep.
Well,
I do it first thing in the morning because it gives me a bunch of energy.
Oh, no, I was totally relaxed. At the end, she gave me like 4 homework assignments I'm supposed to write down in some sort of weird journal. And then she signed off by going Dave Mustaine at the end or something. I don't know.
Dave Mustaine. Yeah. No, please, Fingers. I want to see. You should do live yoga with Fingers every day. Get people motivated.
We'll record a Zoom yoga session with the 2 of us. Be slightly out of sync because we'll be watching Prime from different.
I could lead you guys through my daily yoga practice.
What kind are you doing now?
I'm doing a vinyasa yoga. So that means one move flows into the next and then you repeat it for Fingers that's just joining the program.
She tried to teach a quick vinyasa class at the beginning of this 30-day program I'm doing right now. And it was like, okay, it's not really flowing for me because I have to make sure that the next pose I'm not going to fall on my ass or something.
Right.
I'm like spending half the time that we're in it adjusting the pose to try to get it right. So I wouldn't say it's a flow. It's a very stop-start when I do vinyasa.
Well, a year ago, I sank a ton of money into DDP yoga. And for the folks out there who aren't familiar with
Dirty
DDP.
dick pic?
Yes. Diamond Dallas Page, the former world wrestling WCW world heavyweight champion, created a yoga series, and what it does is it marries the physical fitness and relaxation techniques of yoga with professional wrestling. So you'll go from a half dragon pose to hitting your neighbor with a steel chair. Yeah. So that's what it does. So I'm looking forward to advancing into this DDP. It's supposed to be some sort of power yoga. And I saw power yoga more than once when I was scrolling through trying to find an ideal program on Amazon Prime to start. So that's another one. I've heard of hot yoga. Now this power yoga. And whatever Tracy just mentioned.
Look for vinyasa.
Vinyasa.
That's just one move flows into the next. You don't hold anything for a really long period of time.
Yeah, and you look at all those dudes who have been doing yoga for 20 years. They're all buff as hell.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm using as my touchstone here. I'm going like, there's something there.
Right. Well, that's the thing I've noticed with seeing the before and after on the DDP yoga, and I've heard other people talk about how it really does a number on you if you're stiff, and you become more flexible from doing yoga. And as someone who used to be an avid golfer, I would have, for those of you familiar with golfers from the 90s, I almost had the John Daly swing, where when I would on the backswing, the driver would nearly touch the ground behind me, and now I'm at 60% because I can't.
Now it looks like you're making a hockey shot.
Yeah, exactly. There's no flexibility anymore. So I'm interested to see how this helps my flexibility.
One of the real reasons that I got into it too, besides the perv thing, which was totally legit, was that when I go out for long bike rides, you're in kind of the same position for a very long time on the bike, you know, and this is not a young back or neck that I'm taking out there for that. So if I'm 3 hours on the freaking bike that day or 2 hours, I get back and my back's a little stiff from that. I mean, I do yoga stretches. I've done these yoga stretches for running for a long time. So that's the first thing I do when I get back. But I figured if I'm going to start riding more and more, I really should balance it with this. And just to make sure that my back and because I really do like going out for long rides. We're kind of screwed with that this time. That was part of my quarantine 15. When this all started 4,000 days ago in March, I figured, okay, this will be a couple of weeks and then I'll get back on the bike and ride like crazy. Well, we completely skipped the part of the year where I can ride like crazy because it's hot now already. Yeah. I can go out and ride for maybe an hour in the morning right now. I'm going to sweat, but I'm not getting in. So it's not like I'm going to be getting on the bike every day and going for somewhere between 25 and 40 miles because that's just not going to happen now until October.
Yeah, and for people that don't know and can't see Steven, he's in Arizona right now. He's wearing an Arizona hat to represent. But So were you locked down, unable to bicycle during this whole time?
What happened was, okay, when Fingers and I did the no, he didn't do a self-quarantine. He was told to quarantine. But I figured I just spent 4 days with him at the same event, so I might as well quarantine too. Plus, I don't go out that much anyway. So we did that.
That was back at CPAC. For those that don't know, in February, we went to an event and one attendee tested positive. And so for at least 8 days in March, I was put in quarantine.
And as soon as we came out of that was when the real lockdown quarantine stuff started. We had a day there. And then my reasoning at first was because I have a love-hate relationship with my bicycle. I thought I'll lift at home. I'll do some yoga at home for a while. I don't want to go out on the bike and eat it and have to go to the emergency room. Because this is when we don't want the emergency rooms overrun. So I was being overly cautious on that. I finally got back out on the bike a couple of weeks ago and didn't realize how much I missed being outside for an extended period of time. The first ride, I was just like, I was hearing music in my head the whole time because I was so happy. I was like, God, I miss the outdoors.
Well, do you have a psycho governor out there or not? Sorry, Fingers.
No, you're fine.
No, we just have a bad Republican governor who just arbitrarily extended us by 2 weeks without really explaining why. And we're in a state that has a very low infection and death rate. So I don't know. He's ostensibly Republican, but I wasn't happy with that extension. The extension would have been okay if he would have said, because of this, and then this is how we're going to emerge 2 weeks from now. But it was all still just felt like, well, the other governors are doing this, so I'm going to do it.
I think there's a lot of cowardice with this whole situation. You've got a bunch of governors who don't want to stick their necks out because they know that the anti-economy crowd has changed the narrative from we're going to be shut down for a couple of weeks so hospitals can get prepared, they won't be overrun, and everybody will get their PPE and will be able to handle this better to when we open up the economy, people are going to get sick, so we need to keep it shut down. So I just get a sense from some of these Republican governors that they're just not showing a lot of courage. In Indiana here, our guy, Governor Holcomb, we started opening things up on Monday, but you just get a sense that they're just spitballing. It doesn't feel like there's any science behind it. And I would actually have more respect for him instead of coming to the podium and acting like they actually know what they're doing and talking about. They're like, hey, we're just spitballing here. Let's just see what happens. I'd have more respect for that than what's going on here in Indiana, and I'm sure in Arizona too.
Yeah, we haven't had hospitals flooded with anything here. Almost all of the infections and deaths are up in Maricopa County where Phoenix is. We've got 1 million people in my county in Tucson, and we were at 81 deaths yesterday, I think. Mm-hmm. And I don't, I'm not dismissing those deaths. I'm just saying this ain't Michigan.
Right.
Or Manhattan or Los Angeles.
Well, I think that's part of the problem too. We've talked about this a lot. Here, this one size fits all strategy is mind-boggling and really frustrating. We've talked a lot, Stephen, because you have Michigan ties. I have Michigan ties. You've got counties in the Upper Peninsula that for up until maybe about a week ago had no confirmed cases of COVID-19, and they're being treated like Metro Detroit.
Yeah.
And then they're wondering why people are storming the State House. They're the people in the Upper Peninsula, their livelihoods are being destroyed and being treated like Detroit, and they didn't have any confirmed cases.
Yeah, and New York the same way. Like most of the cases in New York are in the Manhattan area. Down there, you go to upstate. New York's a pretty big state for a northeastern state, and there's a lot of it that really doesn't need the same treatment as Manhattan. It's just maddening to me, and that's why I'm not buying the whole science. How the liberals love to bark science all the time whenever they're justifying what they do, even though they're a political philosophy that's basically discounted all of biology at this point, but they love to bark science. And I'm going like, no, where is the science? Where is Gavin Newsom shutting down shutting down just the Orange County beaches because they annoyed him the weekend before. Where's the science there? There's no science there. It's petty tyranny. And I'm not afraid to say that anymore. And it doesn't mean I want people to die, but I don't know why we can't start looking at a more reasoned approach to opening up parts of states. I don't know why it has to be, if Tucson wants to stay shut down because we have a commie mayor, then let her stay shut down. My Mexican food place is delivering. I'm fine. My beer place is delivering.
No, it's crazy. You see, I think it was Oregon where they extended it until the middle of July. Like, where are you coming up with these dates?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you where. Reaching up the backside. What did we pull out today?
Yeah.
Did you guys see this yet? A friend of mine was just telling me this right before I was got off the phone to join you. There's some viral video going out there where somebody's little girl made up a song called "What's Inside Your Butthole."
No.
Are there astronauts up there? Or I didn't have a chance to go look for it, but that kid's going places.
Well, you talked a little bit about it this morning in the morning briefing. I've been amazed at how much propaganda has come from China and that the media has just gone along with it just because they think it's going to damage Orange Man bad. You've been observing it. I'm sure you're like everyone else. No one's surprised on the right that China's been lying.
No, and that was how I led this morning, saying, there were some of us who were kind of skeptical from the beginning. This isn't just a Trump phenomenon, too. I haven't written enough about this, but I'm old enough to remember all of the Cold War propaganda coming from Russia. The media back then used to default to believing the Soviet commies. That's what they do because they've all been such avowed leftists. I mean, most media people in America aren't just leftists; they're far leftist, and they've been that way since the '60s. Same thing in academia. Those are all far left people who I have no problem calling commies because they're freaking commies. Mm-hmm. So this is a thing that's eerily reminiscent of that era for me too, with the gift with purchase that is the Trump hate that goes on top of this now. So it's even worse this time around. And look at that report that came out this weekend and a day before. WAPO was running interference saying, look at how wonderful their response. It probably didn't come from the Wuhan lab. And then the next day, there's a report that said, yeah, probably did.
I mean, I still see people joking about, bat soup and all this at the wet market. It's like, they don't sell bats at the wet market. I've known that for a month. And I don't work as an investigative journalist. Where have you guys been?
Yeah. It's not just it's the media working in concert with the elected Democrats and the celebrities. So they've got their full court press going on with this propaganda stuff. And I haven't really seen any of them. I saw some reporting on the study that came out this week from the 5 Western intelligence agencies, but I haven't seen anybody like jumping all over it from the mainstream media, especially WAPO going like, oh yeah, we got that wrong the other day.
So you expect them to do that, Stephen? These are the people that won Pulitzers for the misreporting of Russiagate. Come on.
And that 1619 project that won a Pulitzer too.
Well, being a journalist means never having to say you're sorry.
I'm going off on WAPO right now. I was just writing something before we started for our PJ Media VIP members about WAPO the Hill ran interference this weekend on the Biden allegations by allowing an op-ed to be written by a current member of the Democratic National Committee's Rules Committee, not even an ex-member. They got someone who's working for the DNC right now to write an op-ed and run interference for him. And it was all, he's remained above the fray. He hasn't personally attacked her. He doesn't need to. He's got the press to do that for him.
Right.
That's the whole difference here. Trump needs to go defend himself because there's nobody else that's going to do it but Trump. Biden can just sit there and, I think part of this is Biden doesn't really know what's going on. They explain it to him in the morning, and then by the time he's had his first poop, he's forgotten the whole thing. And, and he didn't, the other day it never happened. It just didn't happen. I would take Brett Kavanaugh's fiery rage when he finally got in front of a camera to defend himself, because if I were falsely accused of sexually assaulting someone, that's the way I would be. I would not be passive and I'm telling you, I don't have any recollection. I would be screaming at people, probably with my hands around their throats. It's like, well, no, I'm not sexually assaulting you, but I'm assaulting you.
Yeah.
But you also don't have early onset Alzheimer's. So maybe he's trying to play both sides of this, Stephen. Maybe he legitimately doesn't remember, but he's also cognizant of the fact that it might just be that his brain is broken.
Yeah. So it's the press has been spinning hard these last 2 weeks with the China stuff and the Biden stuff. They're working overtime in the spin factory right now.
Yeah. Well, the New York Times editorial board came out and acted like they were going to be just as tough on Biden as they were on Kavanaugh. But this is classic mainstream media. It will be okay. We ask the tough questions, but it won't be the daily grind. We're going to keep this story alive hour after hour after hour, day after day. They'll hit it and then they'll forget about it. And then if anyone on the right brings up saying, "Hey, you haven't covered Biden's the accusations against Biden," like, "Oh yeah, we did. The New York Times did that." Well, it's old news. That's what
WAPO said. WAPO said that on Sunday. I know The Hill said that on Sunday when he had just addressed it on Friday morning. They said, well, the Biden camp dealt with it directly and quickly. And
quickly, this came out in an interview done by Katie Halper, who's at Rolling Stone, I believe. She does a podcast with Matt Taibbi, but also has her own podcast. And I checked the other day, that podcast came out March 27th, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here on May 2nd or May 5th, May the 4th today, and they're pretending like this.
Yeah.
We dealt with it quickly.
He didn't get asked a question about it until May 1st.
Yes. Quickly, though.
And then he got no follow-up questions. I know everybody was like, yay, Mika, the other day. Okay, she asked him 2 pointed questions, so at least that happened. But there were myriad follow-up questions that could have come after that. And none of them happened. It was just like, okay, we let him go, and all right. And then Joe just sat there like a dumbass, because he's been carrying water for Biden all along. So it's mad. I don't think it's going to derail his presidency. I think the fact that they want to get rid of him anyway is going to derail his presidency, but they're going to wait until after he's elected. A lot of my friends think he's going to that they're going to make a move to get rid of him before. But I don't think so. Like our friend Carol Roth, that's what she thinks. We talked about it last week. And I said, I don't think they can do that, because then that means they have to take a serious look at Bernie. And that's a whole new truckload of headaches for them. And they don't want to go there. They would rather just get Biden a VP pick that they like, then get him into office. And then he has a serious health episode all of a sudden after he gets into office, a scripted health episode that he can play along with. Or he's going to be the first guy to get 25th Amendmented. And it's going to be his own party that does it.
Or they get through the convention, however they do that, virtual or whatever. They give him a VP, and then he gets coronavirus and the wave that we're told is coming in the fall, and he can't survive that.
Yeah. They got to make sure that Bernie's far away, though. They can't give Bernie any claim to the title.
I don't think he'd fight for it anyway, Stephen. We just said these allegations from Tara Reade came out at the end of March. Bernie Sanders didn't drop out until 2 weeks later. He didn't grab these things and run with it. Yeah. He never wanted to win. It's all about making money.
Could be. Yeah. It's going to be, there's so many things at play this year. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, the whole Bernie thing, it makes sense because he's the biggest pussy of a revolutionary you've ever seen in your entire life. He keeps talking about, we're leading a revolution. CNN and the DNC bent him over and they made him their bitch. And what did he do 4 years later? It was like one of the first places he went to for a town hall, CNN. And he could have regained a lot of respect from a lot of his followers if the first thing he would have said then was, yeah, you know what? I got some issues with you people, and then launch. But instead, it's like he just continues to take it and take it and take it. It doesn't surprise me at all that he didn't grab those allegations. I think Tracy's right. He didn't really want to be president. Man, listen, you can't have too many beach houses, Stephen.
Yeah, I know.
On another beach house.
I think what he should have done at the very least is launch an independent party bid, which would have completely derailed the Democrats. There's no way.
Right. That was my point. He could have started that in 2016. He had the organization, and they already had him, people donating on a monthly basis, and that continued throughout. Why not just splinter off at that point? It doesn't make any sense.
It would make sense if he had respect for the Democratic Party, but he's not a Democrat. So what the hell? I don't know. The one thing I'm going to be interested in seeing when this is all said and done is if Americans are going to say enough with buying cheap shit from China. I've been looking for a wood pellet grill for a couple of months now, and I found a few companies that they make them in America, but most of them, they're made in China. You try to find a TV that isn't made in China, and you need to find a private investigator to find out where a lot of these TVs are made, because none of the companies, especially now, want to have their businesses be associated with China. You think we're going to see this? You think that people are going to take a second look at where they're getting their stuff?
Well, I think anecdotally, I know a lot of people who are already saying they are, and I think that's how it starts. I mean, it's going to be a messy breakup because sometimes China isn't involved until like 5 links down the supply chain.
Yeah.
So you may not be seeing it up front, but then if you do a deep dive and go and research it, then you're going to find, okay, they're down there too. It's going to take people doing that at first, and then there's going to have to be some economic pain for corporations to start saying, okay, we can't keep doing China stuff just for the cheap labor. We can't keep doing China. And I think that people after this will pay a premium for things that aren't made in China. Now, I don't know what a wood pellet grill is. I just getting a fancy old fashioned grill, and I'm getting a Weber kettle because they're made here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, we started talking about Biden, and apparently the base of the Democratic Party, the person that is polling the highest to be the potential VP pick is Elizabeth Warren. That's what it's looking like at this point.
That's what I call my dream ticket. It's the unintelligible and the unlikable. There's your campaign slogan right there. She is so off-putting that I would love for them to pick her just so she can alienate. And if she's the progressive they go with instead of Bernie, that's just going to piss off all the Bernie bros.
Right.
Yeah, they already hate her because she stabbed Bernie in the back.
Yeah. So I just know that's my dream pick for him.
And I
just don't see what that gains for them, though. What's the thinking? Is it they'll get the progressives even though they've had a big split with the Bernie bros?
That's probably what they're thinking, because it doesn't seem like anybody on Team Biden really has a grasp of what's actually going on here, or they wouldn't be letting him in front of a camera, because it doesn't bring any of the progressives that they want. I mean, I think they're just remembering her 2 weeks in the sunshine where she was kind of near the top of the polls, and they're not remembering her precipitous decline because she's so off-putting. And I think they're clinging to that because they sure as hell don't need Massachusetts. I mean, there aren't that many progressive options or female options out there from areas of the country that they need. The only thing you're coming close with is Whitmer, and because they do need Michigan. But I don't know, if her cachet is what everybody believes it to be right now. I'm sure the progressives love her at the moment, but does the affected auto worker in Michigan suddenly jump over to Team Biden because they chose Gretchen Whitmer? I don't think so. And so I don't see. They had so many people running from the bluest of the blue states this year, and so many of their prominent people are from the bluest of the blue states. There are no mercurial Democratic rising stars, and if they're looking at Stacey Abrams, good luck with that. I don't think she's going to quit being governor of Georgia.
So you're telling me that the Biden Liz Warren ticket is your dream ticket over a Biden Adams ticket or Abrams ticket?
Abrams, yeah, because I really do think, because Liz Warren will just alienate people. So that's what she does. She's just gonna, anybody that they needed who they're hoping will come back to their side that they lost in 2016. They're gonna her. And then you got two of the biggest liars on this. I mean, you got the plagiarist and the liar.
Yeah.
Republicans don't bring up the reason Biden's first presidential run was derailed because they found out he was a plagiarist.
Yeah.
They need to do that because this is his 14th presidential run, I think. And his first one was 88?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he got nuked out of that because he was a liar in college.
Well, that, and then he was lifting almost
Neil
full speeches from, what was that, British?
Neil Kinnock.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played that audio. Somebody put together a really good montage, Stephen, that showed all the coverage of it from the 88 campaign. And it's different news bites, and they're actually calling him stupid. The news anchors are just like, God, is he stupid or what? Because they're mouthing off at a town hall like, I'm the smartest person in this room. I have 2 degrees and I graduated at the top of my class. And they cut back and they're like, actually, he graduated near the bottom of his class. And he didn't get a scholarship like he said. And we don't want to speculate about his IQ, but we're assuming it's not that high.
I'm going there. I've long said that you don't need a lot of brains to get through law school.
No.
You need study habits. That's it. I think Schlichter will back me up on that too, even though he does have brains. And my kid's about to go to law school. I should calm down. But she has brains too. But still, I know a lot of really dumb lawyers.
No, it's really been fun to watch the last several years because, you know, in 2016 you had leftists lecturing the right on just completely disgusted that people on the right could vote for such a horrible human being like Donald Trump, and yet they're trying to convince you to vote for a rapist apologist,
Yes.
in Hillary Clinton. And the last few years we've heard the criticisms from the left that, oh my gosh, Donald Trump, he's such a dummy, and listen to his vocabulary. It sounds like a 4th grader, and they're nominating a guy who can't put 3 sentences together. The whole thing's really fun to watch.
And by the way, dementia issues aside, Biden's always been like that. He's a spaz. He's like, I found a 10-year-old bit of mine from a comedy club that's not even open, where I'm talking about what a mushmouth spaz Biden is. And plus, there was a whole thing in there, that same bit. I sent it to one of our other friends. I don't think I sent it to you. That same bit, there's a thing in there. It was H1N1 time, and I was talking about, I like the fact that people are being a little more cautious, it was a precursor to social distancing, but that's basically what the bit was about. Biden's a spaz, social distancing, me 10 years ago, because I'm pretty much the Nostradamus of comedy. I don't know if you remember, they had a healthcare summit early on during the Obamacare debate. It's the one that Paul Ryan hosted, chaired, I think, and they were all there. And at the end of it, there's a hot mic moment where Biden goes, "It's fun being vice president." He sounded like a kid who just got the prize he wanted out of a little vending machine.
Well, remember when he leaned over to Obama when they signed that, and he goes, "This is a big fucking deal."
Yeah, he's always been a spaz.
He's everything the media claimed Dan Quayle was.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all Dan Quayle did was he misspelled potato.
Once.
Yeah.
That was it.
And that was the end.
Yeah, he was, every Republican is dumb. Reagan was an idiot which the New York Times was forced to recant years later when Reagan in His Own Hand came out. Brilliant book, by the way. I still highly recommend that. It was Reagan's handwritten speeches from when he was first, I think it was from between the time he was governor until he was elected president, when he had a radio show. And he was writing all of his own speeches. They would commute from the ranch down to LA, I think, where they were doing the radio show. And he would sit while he was being driven and write the speeches longhand. And they showed you some of the actual longhand stuff there. And the New York Times did a review of it and admitted, they said, okay, so apparently Reagan's philosophy was all Reagan's. Even Reagan was a Reaganite. And they were like, oh, he wasn't as dumb as we thought he was. But when he was in office, they kept, trying to tell you he was a paste eater who couldn't make any of his own decisions. Yeah.
No, that's Biden is an ADHD candidate. You brought it up earlier. Even the corn pop incident, you know damn well there was nobody on his staff that said, hey, you know, this would be a good time when you start when you're talking about your vision of America. If you could squeeze in that corn pop story, that would be great.
No, can you imagine being on his staff right now? Is there a way to mainline Tums? They sit there and, you know, they go over and they've got the speech writer and everything's all set up and good to go. And then he starts talking and their sphincters you can almost hear them clenching because they know, oh, here he's going to go. So that's why they started doing the things with Jill, where Jill talks and he just sits there like, you know, he's got this look on his face that I wrote the other day. He looks like, I wonder who this nice lady sitting next to me is.
Yeah,
I mean, there's precedent, right? Wilson had a stroke while he was in office, and his wife ran the joint. You can see that on Drunk History. That's how I learned that history lesson.
Yeah, that worked out well.
It's the reverse Nancy Reagan. Instead of the president talking and the first lady sitting back looking adoringly, it's the other way around.
Yeah,
it's good times.
Oh, I just want this to be over with because that's going to be so. November 3rd will be actually the end of March 2020. And then we can move into. It's like I tweeted at the May 1st. I was still up late after having done the briefing, so it was probably 6 a.m. my time. So I was having a really healthy day already, and I hadn't been to bed yet. But I tweeted. I said, I don't know about you guys, but this first week of May has just sped by for me.
Oh yeah, that's what's going to be interesting to watch and to see how this unfolds during this election year is how each state handles reopening. And the president has been in touch with the commissioners of the major sports leagues, trying to get them to open up and to start the leagues. You and I have talked about it privately a lot. I think that the country needs that. You're seeing reports that people are starting to get out more now and driving around, but they need more. They need the restaurants open and they need the sports leagues to start. But you don't think they're going to start back up at least on football on time, do you?
The NFL swears as of today that they are. They canceled the London games, though, which will make the game better.
Yes.
Because they shouldn't be playing football in London. Screw the British. We don't need football there. Oh, that's what I thought. I think, wait, is she going to be here? Or? Yeah, Trump's going to be here tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Phoenix. He's traveling to look at a Honeywell plant and meet with Ducey and talk about reopening. And McSally's going to be with him. And I'm pretty sure that the NRSC set this whole thing up for McSally because I think that they're all in on dragging her across the line here. I think most of their resources probably go to her and Joni Ernst. And Susan Collins can fend for herself. Because this is the first big foray out of DC for him during this whole time. So this looks like it was orchestrated more for McSally than for Trump or Arizona. But what the heck, if they can if he can convince Ducey to start opening some things, I'm good.
And NASCAR's coming back, right? Didn't I see that somewhere?
Formula One did say that they've got a July start date with nobody in the stands. I would assume NASCAR followed suit. I didn't see if NASCAR and IndyCar followed suit right away. But Formula One was the first one to say that they were going to come back. And I don't know what's going on with baseball because you hear so many different things about how baseball is going to come back. I think, Fingers, you mentioned it. I think that at this point, the July 4th return would probably be the greatest symbolic thing.
Yeah.
Just, like 4th of July, everybody had a hot dog. Well, nobody's going to go to the freaking game. That's the whole thing. I mean, everybody has to do this for the television revenue. So I want them to make some money, and that's good.
NASCAR is going to be racing on May 17th. Then UFC is back too on May 8th, I believe. They're going to have no fans in the stands, but Rogan was talking about he's going to go do the announcing for it. They're doing it in Florida.
Yeah, IndyCar. I'm trying to see if IndyCar said when they're going to come back. And they're just talking about those virtual races right now.
Well, South Korea, they're going to start their baseball league back up this week. And I have seen some footage. I don't know if it was from practice or not, but the players were wearing masks.
Oh,
so
God.
That's going to be strange. I'm sure Major League Baseball's watching to see how it works out in South Korea. But
imagine playing in humidity with a face mask. But other than the pitcher, other than the catcher, the batter, and the ump, baseball is essentially a social distancing game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's far apart. Yeah, so you're going to tag the guy maybe, at the plate, but still, it's not football. It's not everybody on a pile.
Right. The closest interaction you're probably going to see is catcher and batter, and when a first baseman's holding a runner on first.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the two areas where there's going to be the most close
I guess
contact.
the dugouts, though, that's probably what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, they've talked about eliminating dugouts.
Oh, okay. So where's everybody going to go? They're
going to sit in the stands
around like this. Oh,
they're going to sit in the stands.
They should make them wear those hats where they take the pool fanoodle and do and social distancing hats. I saw, who knows if it's true or not because it's from China, but they said Chinese kids are returning to school wearing social distancing hats. Did you guys see that over the weekend? No, you've got these little first graders with these giant horns coming off of their heads.
I was always told the Asian kids were better at math, so you would think they can figure out what 6 feet is.
Right. You just hold your arms out when you walk down the hallway. How about that? We don't need to wear these silly hats, but I saw somebody bicycling over the weekend wearing one.
Isn't that crazy?
What is wrong with you? What are you thinking? It's going to be difficult to breathe.
How close are the cyclists going to get to each other unless you're in a road race?
Right.
I mean, I go out riding right now. We're not getting close to each other. I've seen, and I would say only about a third of the people I've seen riding so far have masks on. It's freaking hot here already.
But they're riding with the masks.
Yeah, but it's built-in sunscreen. But I'm not going to ride with a mask on. That's kind of ridiculous. And we're not required to here. But
to me, that's ridiculous. Seeing people, I've seen joggers, I've seen people riding their bikes. It's as ridiculous to me as seeing someone driving alone in a car with a mask on. It's like, what is this?
Virtue signaling.
Yes.
Because I read 2 articles now about how very unlikely you are to get this from a runner or a cyclist.
The fact that you even need to write articles about that is insane.
First of all, if they're starting to have any kind of problems, they're not going to be breathing well enough to run or bike. Yeah. That's like the very first thing. And then there is the distance. I mean, we're out there. There's a fair amount. One of the things they installed on this loop, there's a huge loop that goes around Tucson that I ride on, 130-mile loop. And they installed these signs at the beginning of quarantine, these digital signs that tell you how many riders they've had that day, how many riders they've had year to date. And I'm going like, oh, they're still getting some people out here. and everybody's fine. It's like, I was being overly cautious, but it was because I was buying the whole, let's not have the emergency rooms clogged up.
Yeah.
At first, once I found out that the emergency rooms weren't being clogged up, I was like, okay, I can afford a broken arm right now.
Yeah. Well, I still, like yesterday, I went out, I went to the grocery store, and by the way, and it's all anecdotal. The last 2 times I have visited grocery stores, the meat selection has been next to nothing. It's been wiped out. Couldn't find chicken breast anywhere. But and I know this angers some people on the right. I wear a mask out in public. I don't understand why this is like a political
grocery store. I might.
Yeah, I do it mostly for the people who work there. If it makes the cashier feel a little bit better that the customers are wearing a mask, it's not a huge sacrifice for me to put on my little CDC approved, I'm about ready to rob a stagecoach mask if it makes the person checking me out feel a little bit better.
Well, I haven't worn one in public yet. If I do go to a grocery store again, which I can't see because the last time I went was almost 4 weeks ago now, and it felt like I needed 3 days and a Silkwood shower to get clean from that. I just don't like going out in public right now.
Yeah.
But also anecdotal, I began today with an Instacart order where they had a 2-hour window of delivery. I got ground beef, chorizo, frozen chicken breasts,
Oh.
I got it all. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good week. I felt like I won the lottery. You got the chicken breast? I win.
Well, the fear is that meat is going to be the new toilet paper, right? I mean, you're hearing these stories that there may be meat shortages, so now everyone's running out to stock up on all the meat, and this may be the new toilet paper.
Well,
By the
way, I'll live on canned tuna and salmon for a month if I have to do that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's, I doubt there's going to be a run on that because, everybody's thinking fresh meat. I'm like, I don't need it that badly. I can live on tuna and salmon for a month easily. If that happens. But I got a ton of toilet paper here now. Everybody's got toilet paper now. I got more hand sanitizer the other day. I'm living the quarantine dream here. I'm making chili later on.
But has this really changed your life all that much? Your day-to-day life?
No, other than the going to church thing and the staying home from biking drove me nuts the first 2 weeks because my only built-in time out of the house is on the bike and going to church. Mm-hmm. I'll go out with my friends every once in a while, but most of them don't live near here. It's, once in a while I'll go work from a coffee house just to get out of here. So no, that part didn't, but I was talking to a friend of mine today who's also a writer who stays at home all the time. And she was talking about what a rough time she's having the last 2 weeks on the second draft of this book she's working on, where the first draft just came to her. And she said, I've got some mental block. And you could hear the agitation in her voice. And she goes, what the fuck? She goes, and I said, I told some friends last week that I think this is the week where it actually is getting to those of us who are supposed to be used to it a little bit. Mm-hmm. Because one, there's the whole, you're being told that you can't do something. And it doesn't matter what your political bent is. If you're an American, there's a shelf life for that. Okay?
Right.
The longer you're told you can't do something. And then every once in a while, it's just, the days are blurring. We talked about that. I said, yeah, like last Thursday, I had to keep checking my phone to figure out if it was Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, which is a big deal for me because Thursdays are my Friday. And if I was thinking it was Friday the whole time, then I was going to sit around and not get my work done. And I said, the days are blurring together thing has started to get to me too. And last week I went off the rails, as you know. I was just like, it was like it really got to me last week. I was just like, I was drinking, I was this, I was that. I was like staying up until 8 a.m, binge watching TV for no reason whatsoever, and then sleeping 2 hours a day. And so I think there's a little point now where it's getting to even those of us who are used to it, just because before we were choosing to be used to it.
Right.
Now we're being told to be used to it.
Well, that was pretty much the extroverts' reaction day 3. Mm-hmm. And it took about 5 weeks for a lot of us.
Our friend Amy,
mm-hmm.
2 p.m. her time on the first day she had to stay home, texted me that she was losing it and needed a drink. First day.
Well, I don't want to keep you much longer, Stephen. We talked a little bit about the morning briefing, but fill folks in, tell everybody about it.
Well, Monday through Friday, I publish, I call it a newsletter, but I don't want you to get the newsletter connotation in your head because it's not really like a normal newsletter. I do a theme story at the top, and then I do a bunch of links from around the town hall universe because that's who I work for. Mm-hmm. And then I do links from other places, and then I do something lighthearted at the end. Usually post a comedy video, classic comedy. Sometimes I post. Last Friday I had a really good Cheers video. I forget what I had this morning. I post a lot of old Don Rickles on the Tonight Show videos. Oh, I posted a Dangerfield thing this morning. Did you see it?
No, I didn't. I didn't get down that far.
Absolutely killing Carson in this one. Absolutely, because they did the way Rodney used to be on the Tonight Show with Johnny. He would come out and actually do a couple of minutes up at the top, on the mic on the stage. But then he would go over to the panel and basically do another 10, 15 minutes of his act.
Yeah.
And it was always, and Carson just loved, we all loved Rodney, but this one I hadn't seen it. Carson's wearing this white suit, so you're dated. And Rodney is just on a tear, he's just killing everyone. And then he hits this one little slow part where he throws a joke out there and it doesn't work. And then he does that Rodney thing with his eyes. He looks up and he goes, And then he had 2 more stinkers, and he's like, that's how I start really strong, and then I just peter out. That's my thing. But then he came back. So I always do that at the end, and I'm trying to make it more fun, more dynamic. I don't always do a lot of words up front. I do a lot of social media too. But it's news. It's real news. And it's a lot of links. It's a ton of links. And so it is a newsletter, but I try to finish it with it being fun every day. And then when I'm writing about things, it's, I'm sarcastic. And you can subscribe to it right now. You go on the top of the newsletters thing on PJ Media, you'll subscribe to it. And right now it doesn't have a standalone subscription, but you'll get another email from PJ in the afternoon, but you'll get mine sent at I think mine goes out at 7 a.m. Eastern in the newsletter. So subscribe and it makes it easier.
So you can catch that there. And if you go to the VIP section, Stephen also has a podcast you can listen to. You had me on a few weeks ago. Thank you for doing that. Yes. Called Kruiser Cabana.
Kruiser Cabana. Our friend Carol Roth is on it right now. Had Bill Schultz from Red Eye last week. Mm-hmm. We're having fun with that. The VIP section is worth it. We do a lot of live video chats for the VIP section right now too, especially for everybody in quarantine. I did one with Schlichter. I do one with Vodka Pundit Stephen Green every week. And we're drinking. It's early in the day, but we're drinking just, in solidarity with everyone. Ed Morrissey requested the other day that he and Schlichter and I do one soon.
Oh, nice.
That should be good. So, yeah, there's a lot going on over there. I do a lot of VIP stuff, so it's worth subscribing to. Use promo code Kruiser, all caps, Kruiser, and you'll get a discount.
And of course, follow Stephen on Twitter at Stephen Kruiser. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, Stephen. Really appreciate it.
It was fun. Good seeing you, kids. Let's do this again soon.
Sounds good.
All right, Stephen. Be safe on your bike. Yeah.
Tracy, you need to be on my podcast soon.
All right. Well, just invite me.
I will. I'm working out the schedule for the next month and a half. I'll let you know. All right. Okay.
And invite me to your drinking parties.
Okay.
I may cash out early, but I want to see what the fun's all about.
You can peek in. It's like, I just at the end, it's really like it's a good time. I mean, I think every once in a while I'm so hammered that I just cut out without saying goodbye.
Irish goodbye.
Do the Irish goodbye, yeah.
Full Irish goodbye, and I'm only half Irish. But we did one of the town hall ones. I actually fell asleep in this chair. While we were still but yeah, they're fun. We'll do that. All right, thanks a lot, guys, for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.